My name's Cole Davison. I'm 35 years old, warehouse supervisor for a mid-sized logistics company in central Pennsylvania. I live in a modest ranch house, a place that's seen better days but still feels like home. Been married to Rachel for 8 years. High school sweethearts. We've had our ups and downs, but lately, it's mostly routine. Same rhythm every week. Saturday mornings, I'd wake up early for my shift, and Rachel would make us breakfast, eggs, bacon, pancakes. It's a simple thing, but it felt right. At night, after work, we'd fire up the grill, toss on burgers or whatever we could find, and watch some crime show on TV. We'd both fall asleep on the couch, Rachel's head on my chest. Nothing fancy, but that was life. It was steady, comfortable. I worked my way up from the loading docks. No big promotions or flashy job titles, but I made a decent income. Enough to cover the bills and keep us comfortable. Nothing wrong with that. Lately, I'd noticed Rachel had started a spin class a few times a week, coming home from the gym all sweaty but looking different. Her clothes got a little tighter, her hair more styled, her makeup just a little more polished. I noticed it, sure, but I didn't say anything. People change, right? I figured it was her thing, her way of feeling good about herself. No big deal. Then they hired Ethan Bowers, the new operations director. Ex-military, all energy and focus, with a smile that felt like a challenge. I'd met him a few times in passing, but it wasn't until he started talking to me more that I realized something was different at work. He had this way of making you feel like you were already on the inside, like you mattered. Things started shifting. Ethan started taking more of an interest in me after that. It wasn't like he was doing anything crazy, just pulling me aside now and then, talking up potential leadership roles like he saw something in me. Honestly, at first it felt good, like I was finally being noticed for more than just being the guy who runs the warehouse. But something about it started to feel off too, like I was being slowly pulled into something bigger, something I hadn't signed up for. Then came the first out-of-town assignment. Ethan asked if I could manage a week-long training in Harrisburg, and for the first time in years, I had to leave home for work. The job was nothing special, but the fact that he trusted me with it felt like a step up. I was nervous, but I went for it. When I told Rachel, she acted excited, but it wasn't the normal kind of excitement. It was like she was pushing me to go, almost too eager. "It's good for your career," she kept saying, like she was convincing herself more than me. But I shrugged it off. It was a week. No big deal. The week dragged on. The training was fine, just a lot of running around and making sure people didn't screw up the basics. But when I came back, something felt different. Rachel had started wearing makeup more often, and she was getting dressed up to go out with friends. More than usual. She said it was just to treat herself. But it was like I didn't even know the woman I'd married anymore. I didn't say anything at first. She acted supportive, like she always had, but there was this distance in her voice, in her eyes. I felt it, even if I didn't know what to do with it. When I told her about the next training, the one Ethan lined up in Baltimore, she was too quick to say, "That's great, babe. It's really important." She didn't even hesitate. It was like she couldn't wait for me to go, even though before, she'd always been the one to complain when I was away. Ethan's praise was getting louder, too. He made sure I knew how well I'd done in Harrisburg and lined up more trainings. Each one farther from home, each one longer. He said I had potential. He said I could really move up in the company if I kept it up. It felt like everything was changing, but I couldn't put my finger on why. I was climbing the ladder at work, but at home, things felt off. Rachel's energy was different. She was distant, and I couldn't help but feel like she was happy when I was gone. The gut feeling was starting to form, the one I'd been ignoring. The quiet slip of something breaking that I couldn't see clearly yet but could sense in the small things. The trainings became the new normal. 2, sometimes 3 weeks a month I was gone. Each time, Rachel waved me off at the door like it didn't matter, like it wasn't even a thing. I'd get back. She'd tell me how busy she'd been, and we'd fall into that same quiet routine. Except it wasn't the same anymore. It was thinner, like the edges of everything were starting to peel away. She stopped checking in as much. My texts came back short, just a "hope you're having a good trip," or call me when you can. Nothing like it used to be. There were no more, how's your day going, babe? Or miss you. Just nothing. Even when I called, she didn't ask how things were, or if I was doing okay. It was like I wasn't even on her mind. At home, things were quiet, but it wasn't the calm kind of quiet. It was the kind that made my skin itch. Our routines were slipping away without either of us saying a word about it. No more breakfast together, not even on weekends when I was home for a few days. I'd wake up to an empty kitchen, the coffee already made, and a note saying she was running errands or had a friend coming over. The worst part? She always seemed to know my schedule before I mentioned it. You're going out of town again next week, right? She'd say, like she was reading my calendar out loud. Or, Ethan's got you training in Charlotte, huh? It wasn't that she was nosy. She just knew. And that wasn't normal. Not for us. I noticed other things too. The perfume she started wearing, it wasn't the cheap stuff from the drugstore anymore. It was something expensive. Something that lingered in the air long after she'd left the room. And the tanning. She started going to some place near the mall. Said it was just treating herself. But she'd never been into that stuff before. I didn't say anything. Maybe I should have. One day, I mentioned coming home early, thinking I might surprise her. I had a couple of days off and it had been a while since we'd spent time together, just us. She looked at me, all wide-eyed, and then quickly said, "No, just finish what you started. Okay? I'll be fine here." It was too quick, too easy. Like she didn't want me home. I didn't push it, but I felt that sting. I kept going to the trainings. More assignments, longer trips. Every time I came back, Rachel was a little farther away. I don't know when the change happened. Maybe it was gradual, maybe it wasn't. But it was happening. Felt like I was slipping through her fingers. And I didn't even know why. The emptiness in her eyes when I'd get home. It didn't look like the woman I married. And it didn't feel like home anymore either. There were nights when I'd lay awake, wondering if I was just overthinking it. But deep down, I knew. Something was off. Something was breaking. 1 week, after the last training wrapped up early, Ethan insisted I stay longer on a rural deployment. We were technically done with the work there, but he said it would be good for the project to stick around and help with some minor logistics. I'd already been on the road for 2 weeks, and everything was in order. But Ethan was persuasive, like he was trying to pull me in deeper. I felt that knot in my stomach, the one that always came around when something felt off. I didn't want to stay, but part of me was starting to wonder if I was just overreacting. Still, something didn't sit right. When I told Rachel that I might come home early, she didn't even blink. She didn't seem relieved or happy. It was like she was prepared for me to stay longer. "It's okay," she said. "Just finish what you started. We're good here." The calm in her voice hit me like ice water. It wasn't like before when she'd miss me or act excited when I came back. This time, there was no rush to have me home. But there was something else, something subtle. The way she said it, how she almost pushed me to stay. Like she wasn't just indifferent. She was pushing me away. It was like she was looking for space, and I could feel that space growing every day. A couple of nights later, I got a text from her. "You're still flying out Friday, right?" it said. I stopped cold when I read it. She was asking about the details of a trip I never told her about. I hadn't even mentioned flying out on Friday. I was supposed to come back home, not leave. It didn't make sense. There was no way she would have known. I didn't even tell her I'd booked a flight. Felt like I was in some kind of weird fog. I couldn't shake the feeling that both she and Ethan were trying to push me out, trying to keep me gone. That night, I tried to brush it off. Told myself I was just paranoid, that I was overthinking things. But the feeling stuck. Every word she said, every text from Rachel, was like a little breadcrumb leading me further away from the truth. But I couldn't see what that truth was yet. By the time the weekend came around, I decided to change it up. I wasn't going to let them control my schedule anymore. I wasn't going to just follow along and let whatever was happening keep happening. I called up the company, changed my flight to come home a day earlier than planned. I didn't tell Rachel. I didn't say anything. I was going to surprise her. Maybe I was being a little dramatic. But I had this gut feeling that I needed to see her face when I walked in, to know for sure if things were as they seemed or if I was just imagining it all. So, I packed up my things, got in the car, and drove home. The knot in my stomach never loosened, but I wasn't turning back. Not this time. Something was waiting for me at home, and I needed to know what it was. I drove straight home, skipped the flight. Something in me just snapped, like the need to know the truth was stronger than any logic. I didn't know exactly what I expected, but my gut said I wasn't going to find the answers waiting for me in a hotel room. So, I left the airport and hit the road. By the time I pulled up to the house, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the driveway. And that's when I saw it, Ethan's truck. The dark blue one, half hidden behind the trees at the far end of the driveway, like he didn't want to be seen. My pulse started to pick up, a tight knot forming in my chest. There was no reason Ethan should be here. No reason at all. I parked my car, heart pounding in my throat, and for a moment, I just sat there. I didn't know what to do next, but I couldn't just walk inside. I couldn't let them know I was here. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera app, and started walking around to the back of the house. My boots crunched on the gravel as I moved, trying to stay as quiet as possible, like I didn't even want to breathe too loud. I heard muffled voices, laughter, a sound that, at first, I couldn't place. Felt wrong, felt like a punch to the gut, but I kept going. One step after another until I was at the back door. The damn thing was unlocked, just like always. Rachel used to lock it when I was gone, but lately, I guess that habit had slipped too. I pushed the door open a fraction, just enough to hear more clearly. My breath caught as I saw them, Ethan and Rachel, sitting together in the living room, laughing, talking, half-dressed. Drinks on the coffee table, music playing softly in the background. A dim light flickered from the lamp beside the couch, throwing shadows across the room. I stood there, frozen in the doorway, staring at the mess of it all. It was like time stopped, but I couldn't move. I didn't even want to breathe, like any sound would shatter whatever small chance I had of making sense of it. My hand shook as I lifted my phone. Couldn't speak, not yet. I couldn't do anything but watch. My stomach turned, the nausea crawling up my throat as I quietly pressed record, just to have it all. Proof. As if I needed more proof than what was right in front of me. I didn't make a sound. I didn't step into the room. I just kept recording, watching their stupid smiles, and the way Rachel leaned into him like she'd forgotten I even existed. I could hear her voice, soft and teasing, but it didn't sound like the woman I knew. It didn't sound like the woman I married. For a long second, I just stood there, the cold air creeping in through the crack in the door. I wanted to scream, to storm in and make them both feel the weight of what they were doing. But I didn't. I backed away slowly, still recording, still numb. I didn't need to confront them right then. Not yet. What good would it do to break everything wide open in that moment? I needed clarity. Proof. The moment I was clear of the door, I pressed stop on the video and tucked the phone into my pocket. I backed down the steps, my heart still hammering, my brain scrambling to make sense of it all. But I couldn't. Not yet. I got in my truck and drove around the block, parking a few streets over. I sat there for a while, replaying the images in my head, trying to decide what to do next. I didn't know what this meant yet, but I knew it wasn't the end. It wasn't the closure I wanted, but it was something else, something worse. I had the video. I had them. I stayed in the truck for a while after I parked. The video on my phone played over and over in my mind, but I didn't want to rush it. I needed to wait. Wait for them to be done. For them to think they'd gotten away with it. I couldn't do anything until they were finished. And I wasn't sure if I was even ready for what was coming next. But I knew one thing. This wasn't going to end in a shout. I wouldn't lose myself like that. I watched the front door swing open. A few minutes later, I saw Rachel's car pull out of the driveway, driving away, leaving the house quiet. Ethan's truck stayed parked at the end of the driveway. My pulse quickened, but I stayed still. I needed to be calm. I needed to know exactly what I was doing. When I got out of the truck, I felt like everything was happening in slow motion, but my feet moved on their own. I walked across the lawn and up the steps, my hands steady on the doorknob, turning it like I'd done 100 times before. The door creaked open. Ethan was sitting on the couch, his back to me. He didn't hear me at first. The TV was still on, some mindless show flickering in the background, but everything felt empty. It was just him, waiting for Rachel to come back, to finish what he thought was his secret. I stepped inside, and I let the door click shut behind me. That sound felt so final, like a lock snapping into place. Ethan turned around, and the look on his face, it was like he saw a ghost. His eyes went wide, and his lips parted like he was about to say something, but then nothing came out. Rachel must have heard the door, because she froze, standing in the hallway, staring at me with her mouth open, like she didn't know what to say, like I wasn't supposed to be here, like I was the one who had messed up. I didn't say a word at first. I just stood there, looking at them. It didn't take long for me to feel it all sink in. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't some slip-up. It wasn't some petty thing that could be fixed. It was everything. Finally, I broke the silence. I saw it all, I said, my voice steady, colder than I thought I could sound. I recorded it. I pulled out my phone, holding it between us like a bulletproof shield, the video open, the evidence hanging in the air like a cloud ready to burst. Rachel's face shifted, like the blood drained from her cheeks. She opened her mouth, probably to say something, maybe to apologize, but she didn't. I didn't give her the chance. Don't bother, I said, cutting her off. I saw everything. You and him. In this house. Half-dressed, drinking, laughing. I let the words sit there, thick and heavy, but I didn't yell. I didn't need to. They both knew what this meant. I could see it in their eyes. Rachel's shoulders slumped. Her hands trembled as she reached up to wipe her eyes, but no tears came. She tried to explain. Cole, please, it was just a mistake, she said, her voice shaky but still trying to reach me, like she could still fix it somehow. I didn't mean for it to happen, okay? I didn't let her finish. It's not a mistake, I said, more quietly this time, but there was no softness to it. A mistake is something you fix. This is a choice. You chose this. I looked at Ethan then, who was still frozen, his mouth moving, but no words coming out. You're done. Get out of my life. Get out of my career. I don't need you in it anymore. Ethan stood up, his face going white, hands twitching like he might try to do something. Anything, but he knew. He knew it was over. He opened his mouth to apologize, to say something, but he didn't. He couldn't. Not after what I just said. Not after the truth I'd laid out for him. Rachel stepped forward, her voice weak, but desperate. Cole, please don't do this. I made a mistake. Okay? A huge one, but we can fix this, we can work through it. I shook my head, cutting her off before she could say another word. No, I'm done. I'm done with all of it. I looked at Ethan one last time, not with anger, just with finality. And you've got no place in my life, in my work. You'll be hearing from HR soon. I didn't wait for another word. I didn't need to. I turned, walking back to the door, calm and steady. The sound of Rachel's voice calling after me, begging me to listen, faded behind me as I stepped outside. It was done. There would be no more explaining, no more excuses. The day after everything went down, I made the call. I sat in my truck, the weight of everything pressing on me, and dialed the number for a divorce attorney. It felt surreal, like I was making a choice that should have been made years ago but hadn't yet been clear. I walked into his office a couple of days later, paperwork in hand. He didn't say much as I laid out the evidence. Texts, photos, the video. Just nodding, making notes, asking questions I didn't want to answer. Rachel got nothing. No claim to the house. No claim to the car. No alimony. Nothing. She tried to argue when she got the papers, but I didn't give her a chance. Not after what she did. I wasn't doing this to hurt her, but I wasn't going to let her walk away like nothing had happened either. Ethan didn't get off easy either. I filed a formal complaint with the logistics company. They didn't waste time either. Within days, I had a confirmation that he was suspended, pending review. The HR department was tight-lipped, but I knew they were taking it seriously. His career was done. I had no sympathy for him. What he did to me, what he did to Rachel, to the company, to everything, wasn't something you just walked away from. A week after I filed, I got an offer from a competitor. A better salary, no more field assignments. A desk job. The idea of being home every night, of not being on the road, felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. There was no hesitation when I accepted. I moved into a small house in a nearby town, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I didn't want to be reminded of what I had. I didn't want any of it, not anymore. The house was clean, quiet. No old pictures on the walls, no clutter from years of living in one place. It was empty, but it was steady. The first few nights were the hardest. I kept expecting Rachel to call or to hear a knock at the door. But nothing came. She didn't try to reach out after the divorce papers. She knew it was over. The emptiness was there, but so was this strange sense of peace. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel trapped. I didn't feel like I was running on fumes. The days started to get easier. I went into work, learned the ropes of the new position, met the new team. It wasn't the life I thought I'd have, but it was one I could build again. And that felt better than I ever thought it would. I didn't need Rachel to tell me she was sorry. I didn't need Ethan to admit he screwed up. What I needed was space, time, and the chance to rebuild something that wasn't broken from the start. That small house, the one with no memories yet, became my refuge. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. It was steady. It was something I could control, and that was enough. Took a little while before I even thought about dating again. The first few months were just about figuring out how to breathe again, how to exist in a space where I didn't have to worry about someone else's lies. But life moves on whether you're ready or not, so I let it. I met April through a guy at work, a friend who'd heard I was getting my feet back under me. She was different from anyone I'd dated before. No games, no pretending. She was real, upfront, and never pushed me for more than I was ready for. We'd go for walks in the park, grab coffee, talk about stupid stuff, nothing deep, nothing forced. Just easy. She respected my pace, my space, and I wasn't sure if I'd ever really get used to that, but I liked it. April never acted like I was broken, like I needed fixing. She didn't give me fake support, didn't make me feel like I was some project to work on. There was no pressure. No weird expectations, and that felt good, refreshing. There were moments when we'd just sit, drink beer on the porch, and listen to music. And for those moments, I felt normal again. For the first time since everything fell apart, I started to believe that maybe things could get better. Then one night, as I sat at the kitchen table in my little house, the phone buzzed. I didn't recognize the number at first, but when I looked at the screen, my heart dropped. It was Rachel. I stared at the message for a second, reading the words, but not really seeing them. "I'm so sorry, Cole. I'll regret it forever. I never wanted to hurt you. I was just lost. I miss you." The words sounded hollow, empty, like she was trying to fix something that couldn't be fixed. She was sorry now, but it was too late. I didn't feel anger anymore. I just felt tired, like I was looking at a person I didn't know. And I didn't need her to apologize anymore. I didn't need anything from her. I read it one more time, then hit delete. I didn't even hesitate. The words disappeared, and the weight in my chest, the small knot of regret, vanished with them. Later that night, after the message had gone quiet in my mind, I stood in the corner of my bedroom, staring at a cardboard box stuffed with old photos, wedding pictures, vacations, birthdays, all those memories I thought would last forever, now just reminders of a life I wasn't living anymore. I pulled the box open, took out a few pictures, and for the first time since the divorce, I didn't feel a thing. No heartbreak, no anger, just nothing. It was like I'd already burned those bridges a long time ago, and these were just scraps of wood that needed to be tossed into the fire. I lit a match, watched it flare up, then dropped it onto the pile of photos. The flames caught, curling around the edges, turning everything to ash. I didn't even flinch as the pictures warped and curled. It was just done. I felt a quiet kind of peace I hadn't expected. I wasn't erasing the past, but I was letting go of it. I wasn't holding on to someone else's version of me anymore. I wasn't trapped in that story. When the fire died down, I went back inside, sat on the couch, and let the stillness of the house wrap around me. The house was small, but it was mine. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. I wasn't waiting for something to fall apart. I was just here, and it felt right. I was at a small bar on a Tuesday night, nursing a drink, waiting for April to show up. The place had that worn-in feeling, like it had been around forever and had seen just about everything. A few regulars sat at the counter, the low hum of conversation mixing with the soft clink of glasses. I was fine on my own. Didn't need company, didn't need noise. I was just enjoying the quiet before I'd see April again. But then I saw him, Ethan, sitting at a table in the corner, unshaven, hunched over a beer. The swagger that used to follow him around was completely gone, replaced by something more hollow. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, and for a second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. He saw me, and his eyes went wide, like I was the last person he expected to see. He hesitated for a beat, then pushed himself up from the table and walked toward me. Slow, like he didn't know what to expect, like he wasn't sure if I'd punch him in the face or just ignore him completely. He stopped a few feet away, and I waited, not saying a word. His voice was rough when he spoke, barely above a whisper. "Cole," he said, his eyes flicking between me and the floor. I'm sorry, man. I know I ruined everything. I don't have anything left. I fucked up. I know that now." I looked at him. His words hung in the air, but they didn't hit me the way I thought they might. They didn't matter. They didn't change anything. I'd moved on, and he was just another ghost from the past. I took a slow sip of my drink, then set it back down. "You didn't break me," I said, quiet but clear. "You broke yourself." Ethan flinched like I'd slapped him. He didn't say anything after that, just stood there, looking lost. There was nothing left to say. He turned on his heel, and without another word, he walked out the door, shoulders slumped, defeated. I watched him go, but I didn't feel anything. No anger, no satisfaction, no regret. He'd made his choices, and now he was living with them. That was his cross to bear, not mine. I sat back, took another sip, and for the first time in a long time, I felt light, like something heavy had been lifted off me. I finished my drink and stood up, stepping outside into the cool night air. The sky was clear, stars scattered above me like little reminders of a world bigger than the one I'd left behind. I took a deep breath, letting the night wash over me. And just like that, it hit me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was free.